So I got to see Ty West Maxine at an early screening a couple days ago, which is a direct continuation of his 2022 film X, bitch. And it is apparently the final movie in this X and or Mia Goth trilogy, whatever the name of it is. And I'm just going to leave with this, guys. Just right up front, I thought this was the best movie in the trilogy, which is strange because like the internet is very divisive on it right now. Been seeing a lot of talk about it being the worst in the trilogy, actually, which I'm not entirely surprised by because this movie is wildly different than the last two movies stylistically. Unlike Pearl and X, which are fairly low-key movies, Maxine is such a fucking loud and in-your-face movie. I mean, with just about everything that it's doing, from its setting to its messages and characters to its homages and references to its brutal violence and social commentary. It's not trying to hide anything or pull any punches, and because of that, it's very brash, I guess you could say. And again, due to that, I think that the movie falters a little here and there, and it's a bit rough around the edges, but I think overall it's a great time. I had a lot of fun with this movie.
You're a fucking movie star.
But before we talk about Maxine, let's do some quick housework on X and Pearl. And by quick, I really do mean quick because I don't have a lot to say about these movies. I like them, but I didn't love them. I feel like I say that a lot on this channel. X I found to be pretty forgettable, if I'm being completely real. From the kills to the setting to the characters, nothing in that movie really stayed in my mind. And I'm not bashing it. I think it's a very well-made movie with some fun kills. It's a nice classic take on the slasher formula with a bit more meat on its bones underneath the surface. I mean, it's clearly like a homage to like the Texas Chainsaw era. But people are going to say, oh, but the subtext makes it so much better. The themes of beauty and aging and longing over the past, the relationship between art, exploitation, and self-worth. Yeah, every movie is about that. And it's not trying to hide that fact. If you have fucking eyes, it's right there on the screen. You would have to be blind to miss that stuff. Respectfully. God, I sound like such a fucking hater. Okay, you know what? Let's toss some more positives towards X. I think it's actually pretty cool how the film subverts our victims. You know, usually in a lot of horror movies, the victims are kind of assholes and kind of stupid, and you kind of want to see them die.
You said that you wanted to do yoga. This doesn't look like yoga to me.
It looks a lot like swimming, doesn't it?
But in this movie, they're actually all pretty good people, and they all die trying to, like, help out, you know? It's actually kind of sad how they go out.
If she's out here, I'll find her.
The good guys are like the weed-smoking sexual deviants, and the bad guys are these crazy old people who are just killing good guys, you know? I still don't really like it, though. I'm sorry. Same with Pearl, right? I thought that Pearl was actually a better movie than X because of its stronger characters, particularly with its lead, Pearl, who I think is a much better character than Maxine.
Why are you leaving me? If I didn't do anything wrong, I don't understand. I thought you like me! Nothing's gonna keep me here! Not you! Not Howard! Not Mama! Nobody!
I guess we'll get more into that later. And I think it had a stronger and more emotionally investing plot. Pearl was also a stylistic change from X, which I enjoyed a lot. I really enjoyed that Technicolor, Panavision almost aesthetic that it had going for it. But particularly what I like about Pearl is just that sense of place and like the different style that it has going for it than what we're normally used to these days. I thought Pearl really delivered on all those fronts. But that being said, again, I still didn't love it, but I did like it more than X, and I just thought it was funny how Pearl got denied one audition and just went on a fucking killing spree, right? That's the whole joke. And it is very funny. She never tried again. The one and only audition she did, she just fucking killed everybody because she didn't get the part.
Please, I'm a star!
And last thing on Pearl, I really love the opening shot of this movie. No joke, it gives me goosebumps like every time I see it. I don't know why. It's a great opening shot. I mean, this looks amazing. Which then leads us back to Maxine, which also has yet another stylistic change, and it's done incredibly well, in my opinion, by director, editor, producer, and writer Ty West. He's wearing so many fucking hats in this movie. And even though I'm not in love with this trilogy, I can't deny how fucking cool it is. How Ty West has basically made like a sprawling horror story spanning 3 movies and multiple decades, all having just different aesthetics and tones. I really, really dug that. And because of that, I don't really see Maxine as a horror movie. I think people should know that going into it. Similar to X, which was a spin on the slasher formula, Maxine's that, but what I felt was like for the 80s crime thriller and I guess giallo genre, accompanied with all the tropes and cliches that you'd think it will have. The movie is undoubtedly rooted within the horror genre, and it proudly wears its giallo inspirations on its sleeve. I mean, it's right in front of you, but it's largely a crime thriller with moments of like horrifically graphic gore sprinkled throughout. Again, the gore here is amazing. The blood looks great. The gore effects, fantastic. And those moments of extreme violence will most definitely get a reaction out of people. I mean, I saw Maxine, again, like at an early screener, full of people, surprisingly. And anytime anybody died, the crowd just roared with laughs and gasps and oohs and ahs. Like, one moment in particular almost set the room on fire. But basically, like, I can't remember the last time I experienced such a vocal crowd reaction like that. Everybody lost their shit. You'll know what it is when you see it. I'm sure your theater's gonna fucking lose its shit too. Which I think goes to show you how devoted the fan base for these movies are, and how much of a crowd-pleasing movie Maxine will be. And I also really enjoyed seeing how certain things were set up in X and later paid off in Maxine, like her mantra, I will not accept the life I do not deserve.
Now that's what I call divine intervention.
And even like the direct references to Hitchcock's Psycho, which is constantly directly referenced throughout this movie. And unlike X and Pearl, Maxine is much more vast and sprawling, I guess you could say, with its locations. It's not as low-key as the other ones. It takes you all over the City of Angels, and it has like a plethora of exciting set pieces, which sometimes so much so that it's almost a detriment. Like, hear me out, stay with me. As much fun as I did have with Maxine, it's not without its issues. The movie is full of so many genre nods and retro aesthetics and conventions that I think it ultimately fails to deliver exciting twists and turns and ends up being a fairly predictable movie. I mean, similar to this year's Fall Guy, which I thought was also a super fun and super predictable movie. Intentionally so, I think, similar to Maxine. Oh shit, that was actually pretty fucking rad. Maxine feels like another one of those movies for movie people kind of things, and I think it maybe gets lost in the weeds of that a little bit. There's constant critiques of Hollywood and references to its old movies and its bygone era, and almost every character is like a stereotype or an archetype of what's come before, but the movie itself falls into those same tropes that it's almost parroting and critiquing, so it's kind of strange. I mean, that might be intended, right? I don't know. I didn't make the movie. But the mystery here isn't that strong. I personally saw it coming from a mile away and knew exactly who the killer was, pretty much from the opening minutes of the movie, but I'm not really sure if the movie is trying to hide it from you. I don't really know. I mean, I think if you've seen and paid attention to the previous two movies, you know exactly who the killer is and why they're doing it. But even so, again, it's still a fun ride, right? Like, predictability is not a deal breaker for me, and I had a great time with it. Regardless, I mean, beyond that, I think the movie's biggest issue, which maybe could also be its biggest strength, is its tone. See, Maxine's tone is like all over the fucking place. On one hand, the movie can give you complete tonal whiplash, and on the other hand, the movie can give you complete tonal fucking whiplash. Like, you'll go into scenes and it'll be about like the brutal murder of women in LA, and then it'll just cut to like a scene of good cop and bad cop, and it's like funny. Like, the movie does that thing that Marvel movies do, the thing that everyone bitches about, how you'll get a serious scene that's eventually undermined by some sort of joke or comedic element.
You don't have one of those, do you?
This movie does that quite a bit. There are scenes that are set up to be scary and creepy, only to eventually become an almost slapstick scene. Something horrific could be happening, but then characters will just start fumbling over their words or trying to say something funny. And I mean, the crowd that I was watching with seemed to really like it. I was liking it, but it never felt cohesive, There are large stretches of just serious shit happening with moody music and moody visuals and somber pacing, and then it'll just become a strangely humorous and goofy movie out of nowhere. But it did feel intentional, like it's just like a mishmash of so many different things going on, and I think that's also largely due to the characters here, which is kind of another issue I have. Almost all the characters here are one note, Maxine included. I feel like if anything, as I mentioned earlier, Maxine is probably the most flat main character in the whole movie. All she does is talking about wanting to be famous and a star, as we all know, and there's nothing really there besides that. She's gonna do whatever she needs to do to become that star. Same goes for Miss Good Cop and Mr. Bad Cop. That's really all they are. He's mean and she's not. Same could be said about Kevin Bacon's character, who's like a super goofy cartoon character almost. He's like a private investigator, and he stands the most out of the movie. I think he's a scene stealer. But like, in regards to the movie's tonal problems, I think he's the most apparent problem. A scene could be dead serious, and then this dude just walks onto the screen and it's a comedy all of a sudden. Again, he is a scene stealer, and it is a fun performance. And I kind of saw him as like that Arbogast or Jake Gittes character, and I mean, he looks almost identical to Jake Gittes, so it seems pretty intentional. And I mean, while we're still talking about performances here, I think another standout comes from someone who unfortunately doesn't have too much screen time in Giancarlo Esposito as like Maxine's lawyer and or agent. whatever he was. His performance perfectly sums up this movie's tone. It's got like two sides of one coin, you know? He hams it up really hard with his stupid fucking wig and his weird persona, but then he still manages to deliver like a really serious and menacing performance at the same time. It's very weird. And all these choices culminate in the final act that will absolutely be the most divisive portion of the entire movie. It just kind of goes crazy, and it will give you that tonal whiplash I mentioned earlier. Though I do find it interesting how people are saying that the third act is the worst part about the movie, even though that's the most connective tissue that this movie has to X. It's like the movie's at its worst when it's trying to connect the two movies, I guess. I don't know. It's interesting. But as I said, what I found to be the biggest strength of the movie is that tone. The strangely inconsistent tone allows this movie to go to all these different places that I think it otherwise probably couldn't have. I like seeing the goofy cop shit. I like seeing goofy Kevin Bacon. And I like hearing all the goofy fucking lines. Like, there's a line in this movie that made me burst out laughing. Like, I'm not gonna say who says it, but somebody basically says, "Hey, get lost, kid. We'll take care of this scum for you." Like what the fuck? This movie is just, it's really fun, okay? When you hear shit like that, you're like, okay, all right, movie, I'm having fun with you. And by the end, like the end, when the movie's wrapping up and the music is swelling, the editing's going crazy, which by the way, the editing is very good here. I was roped back into it, and I had a blast by the time the credits rolled. I think all in all, Maxine is just so much fun. I mean, it's a love letter to 80s cinema, particularly the gritty crime thrillers and giallo horror. And, you know, hey, I think it ends up being a pretty interesting blend of homages in different genres and becoming like an almost meta experience. I don't want to call it meta, but almost. Like, for example, Kevin Bacon plays a character in this horror movie, which is about Maxine becoming a famous actor, and one of Kevin Bacon's first big roles in becoming a famous actor was in Friday the 13th, a horror movie.
Name 5 celebrities who got their start in horror movies.
Jamie Lee Curtis, John Travolta, Demi Moore, Brooke Shields, and
Maxine fucking Minx.
All the while, he's playing a homage to the private investigator character from Psycho, Arbogast, who is also featured and directly referenced in Maxine, but he's also clearly an homage to Jake Gittes from Chinatown, which is also a movie about like the dark underbelly of Los Angeles, or how there's a scene in the movie where Mia Goth has to undergo like a face mold for a movie that she's in, just like how she had to do for the real movie X. You know, like she had to undergo extensive makeup for that movie as well for hours to play the old version of Pearl, or how Maxine beats on people in this movie just like Mia Goth does in real life. The suit alleges that on the 4th take, Goth nearly stepped on him. He complained. The concern was relayed to Goth. On the next take, according to the suit, Goth deliberately kicked him in the head. And then after the scene, she followed him into the bathroom, taunted, mocked, and belittled him, daring him to do anything about it. Wow, that's pretty fucked up. It's just, there's so many weird layers like that to this movie, and it kind of makes it feel all over the place. And I think Ty West had so many ideas, things that he wanted to do, and he could not help himself, and he put it all on the silver screen for all of us to see and experience. And it's not all cohesive, and it doesn't all fit together perfectly, but it's undoubtedly and absolutely a fun ride. I think the movie's at its best when it's trying to do its own thing, and I think the movie kind of stumbles a little bit when it's trying to tie in with the other movies in the franchise, with X and Pearl. Maybe that's a hot take. That's just kind of how I felt. But, you know, yeah, those are my general thoughts. Thumbs up for me. I really liked it. Go check it out. I mean, you're probably going to watch it, right? Everybody's going to watch this movie. Comment below what you guys thought about the movie. I mean, you know, I read and reply to everything. But keep it civil, all right, guys? Keep it civil. And much love, as always, all right? I'll see you guys in the next one.